Okay, in the last video we went through how to calculate overtime pay. We had to calculate my overtime separate from my regular pay and then add them together when I was done. Again, we calculate our regular pay and overtime pay separately, and then we add those two together. Last task I left you with was to finish example 3. You had to put 2 weeks together. We're going to start off by going through this example, and then I'll do another example or two of today's assignment. Okay, this guy's a bricklayer. He makes $16 an hour. What will he earn if he works 49 hours the first week and 66 hours the next week? Okay, first thing we're going to do, for week 1, this is week 1, how much overtime did he work? Overtime is how much he worked, which is 49 minus 40. 40 is a work week. 49 minus 40 is 9. He worked 9 overtime hours. So let's pay him for his regular hours. Regular hours is always going to max out at 40. His regular pay rate is $16 an hour. Don't try to do that math. Just go ahead, pull your calculator out, and do 40 times 16. He gets paid $640 for his regular work, his regular hours. Now we need to pay him for his overtime hours. Overtime, how many hours did he work? He worked 9 overtime hours. His regular pay rate was 16. We're going to put it all in the calculator at once, but let's figure out what his overtime pay is. So we're going to do 16 times 1.5. When he's working overtime, he's getting paid $24 an hour. Now you could do 9 times 24 and get the same thing, or you can do 9 times parentheses, and we're going to have 16 because we get paid $16 an hour, but we're going to multiply that by the 1.5. Press enter. This 16 times 1.5 is the same thing we did here. So instead of doing it in 2 steps, whenever you put it all in the calculator like this, it does both steps for you. So he got paid $216 just for his overtime hours. Now we're going to put our regular pay, which is $640, and add that to our overtime pay, which is $216. For my total pay, I add those, and that should be $856. That's just the first week. Now we have to figure out, oh, by the way, we're going to do this down here. That's my total. We're going to add the next week in a second. So week 2, we're going to do the exact same thing. How many overtime hours did he work? Well, in this week he worked 66. 66 minus 40 is 26 hours. 26 hours of overtime. My regular hours is going to be the same as above. 40 times 16 is equal to 640. I'm just copying from up here. It's the exact same. Now, overtime hours, we worked 26. My regular pay is still 16. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to change this to 26. He made $624 in overtime pay. Okay. Now I'm going to add those up. $640 for regular pay, $624 for overtime pay. Add those, and we get $1,264. Now at the very end, I need to add, this is week 1, and this is week 2. I need to add those up. So I have 1,264 plus 856, and that's going to get me $2,120. And that's the answer. There are a lot of steps in these. Each of these little pieces has to be done independently. Regular hours, overtime hours have to be done separately, then added. Regular hours for week 2, overtime hours from week 2 have to be done separately, then added together. All those things are separate. Then at the very end, you can add those totals up and you get your final answer. So let's look and see what the goal for today is. Today we are just given the how much they make, how many hours. You have to figure it out. We're going to do 1 and 2 together because they look at 2 different situations. The first one we're going to do, we have 36 hours. That's under 40. The second one is over 40 hours. That's going to include overtime. If it is less than 40, we go back to just saying 9 times 36. Pull our handy dandy calculator out. 9 times 36, 324. That is exactly like the first thing we did where it's just hourly pay. If it is less than 30, so it is, sorry, less than 40. That is less than 40. Our next one is greater than 40. If it's greater than 40, we have to figure out my regular hours, and we're going to add that to my overtime, and that's going to get us my total pay. Regular hours, we have 40 regular hours. My overtime hours, 5. And you can see this, 40 plus 5 is 45. My regular hours are at $14 an hour. So in the calculator, 10 times 14, and that is 140. Then when I'm looking at my overtime hours, I'm going to multiply it by my 14 times 1.5. So I do 5 times, and I'm going to do my parentheses because I got to do 14 times 1.5 and close those parentheses. And that is $105. That's not right. Oh, this is not, I wrote this wrong. This is 40. So this first one is supposed to be 560. So 560 plus 105 gets you 665. $665 is my total pay. One more time. If it is less than 40 hours of work, we multiply my rate times the number of hours. If it is greater than 40, we calculate the regular hours the same way, but we max this out at 40. 40 times 14 is 560. Then the overtime, with the overtime, we figure out how many hours we have left. We had worked a total of 45. 40 goes to the regular, there's 5 left over. 45 minus 40 is 5. Multiply that by my hours, my rate per hour, times 1.5 because we get 1.5 times as much, time and a half. Multiply that, we get 2 numbers. These 2 numbers need to be done separate. And to get our final answer, we just add them up at the end.